Moving on, Nikon announced earlier this week that they will reportedly join Canon in ceasing the development of high-end DSLRs. Obviously, the trend for years and years has been going towards mirrorless cameras, so cameras without a physical parallax inside of them. And Canon kind of said as of the announcement of the R5, we're ceasing developments of cameras like the EOS 1 and that line of products, which really spearheaded the DSLR revolution when we transferred from film. But mirrorless is lighter, they're smaller, they have fewer moving parts, and they've gotten to a point where they're kind of reaching feature parity with existing DSLR cameras as far as quality. So Nikon has also said we are no longer going to produce, our D200 style and above. Boy, there's a blast from the past. D200, yeah, the do everything digital SLR from 2006. I'm up on my DSLR names. Anyway, yeah, mirrorless cameras are taking over. They've certainly taken over around my studio. I haven't had a mirrored DSLR. Well, that's not entirely true. I did have a Canon T2i for a short while, but it saw very little use, and that was really only because I had sold my Fuji camera to buy my Zcam E2, which was my workhorse for like 3 years here on the channel until we recently replaced it with Sony bodies. But even before that, I had a bunch of Sony mirrorless cameras. The last digital SLR that I truly used, I think I sold in 2014. And that was a Canon 40D. So, yeah. Times they are changing. And boy, lens mount systems have changed radically. But nothing lasts forever. So
there's just a new antique market now, guys.
I do still have a Canon 10D, which was one of the first sub $2,000 digital SLRs. I think it was like $1,200 or $1,300 at release. I've owned that camera since 2007. So, yeah.
Nice. Ever since smartphones, I haven't really found a need for cameras.
I'm kind of in that same boat as well. I mean, as the best camera is the one that you have on you. I mean, that's an old photographer's adage, but the best camera is the one that you can carry with you. And no matter how good your gear is, if you don't have the gear with you to take the shot, it doesn't matter. And we used to tell people that when I used to sell Nikon D200s and Canon 20Ds and Rebel XTs, like the old, like that's when I worked in a camera store, was right when digital was truly kicking the crap out of film finally. And there were still film holdouts when I worked there. We had people who would walk in and want to trade in film gear, and it's like, yeah, I've got a EOS 1N, which was the sports photographer's film camera. It was a professional body. It was like $4,000 brand new. It shot 10 frames per second. And think about this, okay? 10 frames per second on a film camera, which would hold either 24 or 36 frame rolls. So you can blow through your entire 36 roll in 3.6 seconds. Okay, let's change the film and hope nothing happens. But yeah, no, he came in with that camera, and I went, man, I can tell you without even calling my manager, I don't want to give you an offer, because he was a very large man. And he goes, no, I want to hear it, because I'm wanting to upgrade to, a 20D or, maybe even an EOS 1. And okay, so I called my manager, and he goes, "It's one N," and he says, "Yeah." He goes, "Any lenses? Anything?" I said, "No, he's not selling the lenses. He's keeping the lenses." And he goes, "Yeah, $400 if he'll take it." So 10% of what the camera was like 4 years ago.
It happens
Because no one was buying film. And no professional photographer worth their salt, especially sports photographers, would have bought a film camera in 2000. Gosh, that was 2005.
That's why sometimes you buy things, it's not an investment. You shouldn't view it that way. And I know people of our generation kind of tend to do that.
Yeah.
You know, you get your things and you think they're going to hold their value or whatever, but you don't really know where the trends are going to go all the time. And something that's been as rapidly evolving as cameras have been the last 40 years alone, like,
oh, gosh, I mean, I'd like to say the last 10 years, but you have to go back 20 years to the start of digital. And you know, there was slow progress at first, you know, and like I said, there were film holdouts and things like that. But man, the progress with, I don't even necessarily want to say just the image quality over the last 10 years, although that has skyrocketed as well, as far as the quality of sensors, the noise reduction techniques that have gone into SLRs, allowing us to go from like, speaking of those old SLRs I used to sell, like, do you know a Rebel XT and a Nikon D200? They have a native ISO of 200 and a max ISO of 800. Rhett, what ISO do we shoot at here in the studio?
2500 native.
2500 is the lower native. By the way, our sensors are also dual native, and so they get best performance. Or the Sony A7 IV has best performance at 2500, and again at 12,800. The 12,800 ISO on the Sony A7 IV is light years ahead of the quality of ISO 800 on a Rebel XT.
So what is an ISO 12,000 for? Are you just like shooting in a pitch black room or something? Like
essentially, yes.
Candlelit scenes.
There was.
We have to come up with a shoot where we could do that.
There was. This is really going to be stretching the esoterica of a lot of my knowledge. But there was a short film, it's about 4 minutes long, that was developed and paid for by Canon when the EOS 1D Mark III, I want to say, came out. And it was right about the same time that the 5D Mark II came out, and the 5D Mark II was one of the first DSLRs that could shoot video. But they wanted to show off the impressive low light videography of the 1D Mark III. And so they shot a video in San Francisco at night with nothing but ambient lighting. And it's not just like a guy walking down the street. It's actually a brief chase scene with a car and a guy on a skateboard. And it's shot with nothing but ambient light. Now, in today's world, I could do that easily at 12,800 on the Sony A7 IV. The high ISO they were shooting at was 6,400. They were trying to show that at ISO 6,400, you could get the same image quality that you could at ISO 800 of the previous generation. And so they shot this video in essentially pitch black with streetlights illuminating them.
Nice.
Fast motion, and went, look at the quality we're getting out of this. And look at the quality we have now. Oh, and by the way, 12,800 isn't even at the top that I could like realistically shoot at. Like 64,000 is not outside the realm of what's usable.
Oh God. Wow. It's a whole other ball game.
Yeah. So
do have some more super chats lined up.
Sweet.
Brandon Yan, $5. Have either of you played Star Trek Armada? I just found it on GOG. Started modding it. Makes me feel 18 years younger.
You know, I never got into the modding scene with Armada. I know it exists, and I know it did exist even, 10, 15 years ago. But for some reason, I never got really deep into it. I played almost all the Star Trek games from that generation. In fact, I think I may have even rebought Armada on GOG, but I haven't downloaded it yet.
Well, I know what you're doing tomorrow. Time to mod some Armada.
Yep. Zeus, old friend Zeus, sends over $5. Thank you, Zeus. You sold your Fuji. As a Fuji user, I'm insulted. Here's $5 thrown at you to get a new Fuji X series camera. I had a Fuji X-T3, and I shot on that for almost a year. And it's a fantastic camera. At least for 1080p 60. It did a fantastic job with that. And it was, in fact, one of the only mirrorless cameras at the time when I bought it that could do 1080 60 with the same native bitrate, where it didn't take a hit going in bitrate. So you could film at, I think it was up to 150 megabit at 1080 60, which is fantastic. And that's what I shot a lot of my videos at. And then I upscaled them all to 4K when I rendered them. I wanted to go truly to 4K. And so I sold the Fuji to buy the Zcam E2. And actually I held on to the Fuji for like 3 or 4 or 5 months after I bought the Zcam. Just because like it was a great camera. I've got nothing against it. But, and even for now, the XT4 and, gosh, what's their other new one that came out? Still great cameras. I've watched the reviews on them because I'm still interested. But they're still APS-C. They're still exorbitantly expensive for native lenses. And the autofocus is not really worth it when it comes to video production. And I don't know of anyone who's going to invest into Fuji gear when you're talking video production and autofocus requirements. And when you look at, for basically the same price, you can get an A7C, which is an A7 III in a smaller cinema form factor with a full frame 4K or 1080 120 sensor for like $200 more. So I get it. I get Fuji's a great camera. I loved my Fuji. I also upgraded. Oh, and one more super chat. Sorry, I missed that one. Freiber. Free beer. There we go. Sad to see Nikon and Canon stop DSLRs. On the other hand, that means more cheap full-frame lenses on eBay for my film SLRs. Heck yes, it does. Ooh, EOS 1V. Yes. Good stuff.
Classic. Maybe not. Great camera though. Great camera for sure.
Is that a Canon or a Nikon, right?
Well, EOS sounds like the Canon naming structure, but
yep. Is F6, is that Nikon or Fuji?
F6 sounds like a Fuji.
That's Nikon.
Oh, okay. I tried. I'm a big camera guy. Big camera guy. Know everything there is to know about him.
That's right. That's right.
Point and shoot, baby. It's true. It's very true. Jeff's a great teacher.
I try.